Hello and welcome to the lecture. In this lecture, we're going to discuss an interesting thing, which is email forensic investigation. And this is with regards to a new concept, which is called authenticity. Now, we have already discussed CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. There's a fourth aspect also, which is also very interesting with regards to cybersecurity, and it is authenticity. Okay. Let's see what authenticity actually is. So authenticity basically means that is the sender who's sending you something, it could be a message, it could be a file, it could be an email, are they really the one who they claim to be? So this is, where people or attackers, they can sort of spoof sources and they can pretend to be someone else. This is widely used or exploited, when attackers send spoofed SMS messages to your mobile phones. It's also widely used to send spoofed applications, which you download from the internet, believing it to be from the actual company, but it is actually from attackers and they may have malwares in them. Also, authenticity is violated if you are receiving something from spoofed IP addresses, widely used in network attacks. Another important attack vector is email spoofing. So email spoofing is when you receive email from someone and they claim to be belonging to a certain organization, or they can be a certain person, whereas they're actually not. An interesting statistic with regards to this is that there are roughly 3.1 billion domain spoofing emails sent every single day. So what do we mean by domain spoofing emails? It basically means that emails which are not really from a certain organization or a domain, they pretend to be. For example, you may receive an email claiming to come from support@facebook.com. So basically they're claiming that they're coming from Facebook, right? Whereas they are not. Now there are a huge number of emails which are widely used in this way. And this is what constitutes as phishing attacks, your classical phishing attacks, which are, widely popular, and a lot of organizations are, infiltrated through these. Now, as a security analyst, it would be really awesome if you're well equipped with tools and techniques on how to analyze email headers. And you should be able to identify whether it's a phishing email, it's a spoofed email, and where it actually originated from, right? So in order to understand that, we first need to understand how email actually works, right? So let's have a look at that. Now, the basic idea in emails is obviously mail servers, which we also call as SMTP servers. Now, these servers, they talk to each other over a protocol, which is called Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, or SMTP. Now, this is the most widely used protocol which mail servers use to send and receive emails between each other. Now, what do we mean by mail servers? So for example, this could be, Gmail's mail server. This could be Hotmail's mail server. So a user who sends an email from his Gmail account, for example, so his email would end up here and then it would be sent to Hotmail, right? So this server, which would actually, further be forwarded to the actual user. Now let's see how it actually works. Now let's say there is a user A and he wants to send an email to user B. Now A has an email on a different mail server or a different domain, and B has a mail server which resides on a different domain, right? Now every mail server has, among a bunch of stuff, the two most important things that it has is inbox for each user, in which all the emails that have been received are, placed. And in addition, it also has a messaging queue or an outgoing queue. So every message that A sends comes here, and at its appropriate time, it's forwarded by the mail server, right? Now let's see how it actually works. Now, using something which we call as a user agent. So user agent, you can, in very simple words, just consider it as a, GUI, a front end or an application using which a user can actually fill out email, right? So you can put, for example, recipients. In this case, the user has put someone@hotmail.com, and the subject and CC, BCC attachments, all of that, right? So all of that stuff is handled by the user agent. Now, once the email is ready, it's sent to the mail server. So for example, let's say the user is using the Gmail client, right? So it would be forwarded to the Gmail server. But the messaging queue may have previous messages from this user which are waiting to be sent out. So as soon as the next message is sent out, this message is promoted to the next position, and when it's this message is turned, it is sent by this server to the destination mail server over the SMTP protocol via the public internet. Now, this message would be placed in the inbox for this user B. And obviously, this mail server will also have an outgoing queue for user B as well. Now, what B does is that, when you log into your Hotmail account, Gmail account, or Outlook, you're basically using mail access protocols such as IMAP, POP, HTTP to retrieve your inbox. Now, this is a step where, you open your browser, you log in, and you go to, hotmail.com or gmail.com or outlook.com. And then you see your inbox after being authenticated. And this is how, you can actually retrieve, whatever has been sent to you. So this is like the overall architecture of how mails work. So we have already discussed that a user sends the mail message to the local mail server using SMTP, and then the mail server, they communicate with each other over SMTP, and eventually your email is delivered to the destination system via an access protocol, right? Now the main part of the email is called the content, but eventually it has two subparts, right? Now the first part is the header, in which you put where it is being sent to. For example, in this case, it's being sent to joe@amazon.com, and it is from david@gmail.com. And the next part is the actual message body, in which you put the actual text or attachments, whatever you want. Now, whenever you send a letter to someone, you don't just post the letter, right? You put it into something which we call as an envelope. And what do you do with the envelope? You put your address and the receiver's address. And this is exactly what happens in emails as well. There is something which is called an SMTP envelope, and it's sort of like hidden for the end users. But eventually it contains information about the receiver, for example, joe@amazon.com, and the sender, which is david@gmail.com. Now, this part is actually, SMTP envelope is invisible to the end user. It's sort of like inserted behind the scenes, but it's very useful for the mail servers, right? Let's see how. Now, when this is delivered to this mail server, your mail server, which would obviously be Gmail's mail server because you are a Gmail user. Now, this mail server is going to look at this part @amazon.com, and it's going to understand that, okay, I need to forward it to Amazon's mail server, and which it exactly does. So the SMTP envelope part is mainly used by the mail servers. And eventually this mail, will be delivered by Amazon's mail server to Joe. Now, once again, for Joe, the main part that he's going to be seeing is the content, right? He's going to see where it's coming from, the subject and text, files, whatever. But the SMTP envelope part is sort of like hidden for the end user, once again. So this is how, the email works classically. Let's see how this is exploited by attackers. Now, what an attacker can do is that an attacker can modify not only the from address in the actual email, but using specialized softwares and tools, they can even modify the envelope address as well, the sender address in the envelope, SMTP envelope. And what happens is that, once this email is actually delivered to the end user, so as we discussed previously, this content part would be visible to the user, and the user is going to think it is coming from IT@amazon.com. But here's a catch. If this user hits the reply button, the email would actually be sent to attacker@gmail.com. But since this SMTP envelope is not usually visible, and users, they don't pay a lot of attention after hitting the reply, they, obviously we start typing the reply or attaching, files or whatever. But actually by leveraging this technique, attackers can actually, receive your email when you hit the reply. So this is another catch. So this is how, email spoofing actually works. We've seen what are the contents of an email. We've seen what is SMTP envelope and how it is exploited by attackers. Now I'm going to share with you a live demo of how we can actually send a spoofed email, and more importantly, how we can conduct a quick forensic investigation in order to identify whether it's an actual email or is it a spoofed email, and more importantly, where did it originate from, right? So it's going to be a fun activity. Let's delve in. So one of the most popular websites for sending spoofed emails is amkei.cz. So let's send one. So we're sending it from ABC support, and we put our from address as support@abc.com, and we send it to victim1001@hotmail.com. So this is my own Hotmail address, and subject is your ABC account, and let's type in a bit of text. So dear user, your ABC account has been blocked. Okay, so let's keep it simple. And then we put ABC support staff. So basically this could also be PayPal or anything that we want, and we just send it, right? So the email has been sent successfully. Now let's check the inbox. Now this has gone to junk, but there are some tools through which it would be received in the inbox as well. Now, as you can see, it shows to be coming from ABC support, and the email address is support@abc.com. But if you expand the headers, if you go into view and view message source, you can also do it from Gmail as well. The point is that you need to open the headers, right? So the headers would give you all of that hidden information, which is basically the SMTP envelope and a bunch of other stuff, right? So in the email, you can see, that it's actually sent from emkei.cz. And, basically you can also identify the return path, which is where your email would go to if someone sends a response. So our next step is to actually copy all of the header up till this MIME version 1.0. And we're going to copy all of this header, and we're going to use another tool to investigate. So the website that we're going to use is mxtoolbox.com. It has a bunch of interesting information, but here we are interested in analyzing the headers. So we're going to select the last option, analyze headers, and then we're going to paste the full header, and then we click analyze headers. It's going to make it very easy to carry out the forensic investigation. For example, if you go to the top, you can see that, this is the domain or the mail server where the email came from, and this is the IP address. If we scroll down a little bit, we're going to see some more information. So first is the from address, which basically the attacker wants us to believe. But if you look at the reply to, it is a spoofed email address, and it's going to an entirely different domain. This is also present in the return path. So this is how we can know if the address has been spoofed. Now let's check the IP address which is given. So we're going to use whatismyipaddress.com. So if you put the IP address there, it's going to show you, where exactly this IP actually resides. So the host name is emki.cz, which we already knew from the header. This is the ISP, which is being used, and it's actually located in Czech Republic. The language is a bit different, so don't worry about that. So at least you can identify with the city and the country, where this email actually originated from, the mail server which was basically being used. So in the next lecture, you're going to perform a practice activity. I will give you a header, and then you're supposed to perform all these operations and verify whether it's a legitimate email, where is it coming from, and maybe even track the IP. So it will be some sort of a email forensics investigation.